Welcome to the Wizards of Amazon podcast, where we cover all things private label. My name is Carlos Alvarez, and I will be your host for the show. On today's episode, we have a very special guest, Nick Loper. Nick, what's up?
What is going on, man? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I was stoked, still am stoked when you said that you would be on the show. You're the founder of Side Hustle Nation, and I have just read the craziest, most get things that get the creative juices flowing with me regarding side hustles with the content that I found of yours across the web. So to have you on the show and to hopefully sneak a few of those out, I'm honored. Thank you, man.
Well, let's see what we can cover here. It should be fun.
Nick, for people that don't know Side Hustle Nation and don't know you, let's start there. Let's start with who are you? How did you get on the show? Side Hustle Nation, what makes you tick?
You bet. So I am first and foremost a husband and father. Got two boys. They're 2 and 4 that take up a lot of time and energy these days, but are a lot of fun. Like, hey, I've been trying to tell myself like they're never going to be this age again, and that's been one silver lining of having them home for the last several months is like, hey, we get to spend all this time together. Business-wise, I've been hosting the Side Hustle Show for the last 7 years, which showcases creative ways to make extra money, part-time business ideas, how to get something going in your spare time. It's me trying to spread the gospel of this lower risk brand of entrepreneurship, because that was my story, starting something on the side from my corporate job to the point where I finally felt comfortable giving my 2 weeks notice and becoming a full-time side hustler, a full-time entrepreneur, and really so started the site to kind of share my stories, my experience, but what really took off, and, of course, this was very humbling, was like, we don't care so much about you, but like, you found some really interesting guests. And so sharing their stories what really kind of started to grow that side project.
And the corporate job, what I mean, can you share anything of that? What was it?
So I was working for Ford, kind of at the bottom rung of this massive 100-year-old corporation. I was a dealer rep where I manufacture rep to the dealer body, where I go out and try and sell Ford parts and trying to get them to sell more Ford parts really through the service department. The car business, fascinating business. I mean, some of these guys, had their charters signed by Henry Ford, like, multi-generation family businesses, some of the best salespeople that you'll ever run into for good reasons. And it was really an interesting place to work, and no 2 days were the same, which was really cool because it was a traveling job. And so you're always, on the road and talking to different people, but at the same time had no real desire to climb the corporate ladder there. It was not something that I necessarily aspired to do. So always, even from the very early days, like always kind of had one toe, 1 foot, kind of like looking for something else, looking for the next thing, looking for a way to build my way out.
Well, most people would see working at Ford in that position as a stress reliever. This is the surest path to, success and retirement at the prescribed age and all that stuff. Why was that not the case for you? And can you recall when you first started dipping that toe, like elementary school with blow pop selling or what?
Yeah, I was the kid like trying to sell, baseball cards at the end of the driveway to my equally broke friends. Like it was a poorly thought out marketing plan here. But it was early on. Actually, probably what really did it for me was an internship during college, where it was a house painting internship. And they've got these, all over the country and several different outfits that run them. Mine was called College Works Painting. And it's one of these deals where they'll give you this sales training. They'll teach you how to estimate jobs. They'll give you a week on how to actually paint a house, which is helpful. But then they kind of set you loose and say, here's your assigned territory. Let's see what you can do. And it was just knocking on doors, cold calling, trying to get, set appointments for bids to come back the next weekend, give estimates, book jobs, hire painters, and get this stuff done. And that was the first real taste of working for profits and not wages, sometimes to my detriment, sometimes because I would be nervous about getting work and I would underbid jobs and do all sorts of stuff that they, were pretty clear, look, don't do this, stick to the formula. So I was well, shave a few $100 off here. It's straight out of the bottom line. Some of the jobs kind of went backwards on. but it was all part of this learning experience. And that was, again, that first taste of working for profits and not wages. And so it kind of hits you, and like and the company, to their credit, they post a post on their kind of like internal blog at the end of the summer. Like, if you're reading this, we probably ruined your life. And I still remember reading this post, and I was
It's
like, what do you mean? And they're like, look, if you made it this far, you probably made more money than you ever have. You probably have had more personal freedom than you ever had, which was arguable because I was working 80, 100-hour weeks in some cases. But like, you've had this taste. You're not going to be able to work for somebody else, at least for very long. And I was like, you know what? You're probably right. I don't know what the next thing is going to be, but I've had this taste, and it was incredibly stressful, but incredibly rewarding at the same time, if that makes sense.
Oh no, 100%. I think you're preaching to the choir there. I love the copy on that email. Like I was like, it was frame worthy copy. Like, we probably ruined your life if you're reading this.
Yeah. And because, like, they'll hire 100 kids from this campus, and maybe only 30 of them are left standing over the course of the summer. Either they didn't sell
Kind of
enough,
sounds like SEAL training.
or yeah, it's like they didn't book enough work, or they couldn't hack it. And it was like, for better or worse, like brute force persistence, like, I'm going to make it through this. And my girlfriend was like, look, when I was kind of contemplating, because they don't tell you it's painting. Somebody comes to in my case, it was like my statistics 101 class or something. Do you want a summer internship that you're going to learn entrepreneurship and sales and marketing and customer service? Like, this sounds fantastic. Oh, and by the way, you can make $7,000 on average. Like, yeah, where do I sign up? And you kind of go through this process, and they don't reveal that it's painting until you're kind of already bought in a little bit. And then you're like, I don't know, is this a scam? Is this a pyramid scheme? And then my girlfriend is like, who's now my wife, is like, it's 3 months of your life. Like, if it sucks, it's 3 months. Like, it's not life threatening. You'll get through this. And so that kind of perspective has stuck with me for a lot of different projects and experiments. Like, if it sucks, it's not the end of the world.
There's a lot there that I love. One thing I want to touch on is, and then I want to get into like, because when you say, full-time side hustler, my mind, even I think knowing better, imagines, oh, anytime he knows there's a truck that's waiting to be unloaded, he volunteers. Or if there's something that needs to be degreased, like, I'm open for anything, right? So I want to unpack that a little bit. But something you just mentioned about your wife and how supportive she was in that comment, I like to stress, and I don't know if you agree, is that, to really just excel in your business at what you want to do, who your partner is that plays a huge role in it. It has for me. It sounds like it may have been that way for you too.
Yeah, it really has. She has been 100% supportive for the last 20 years in various forms, through different experiments and ups and downs and everything along the way. And it's kind of, it took us a long time to realize that money is a team sport, where we have, and we kind of still do to a certain extent, but like, have separate accounts, and like, this is, my money, this is your money. It was like, at a certain point, you're just like, look, what's mine is yours. And like, and actually it was kind of looking at some of the early retirement math, like the Mr. Money Mustache stuff of, here's how much you need to retire if you can keep your expenses lean. And that was really empowering, because instead of just this amorphous topic of, the idea is to save money and live for, and just save for 40 years and then you can retire. It's like, oh, you could shortcut that if you're intentional. I don't know. It gave us a finite milestone, or something concrete to shoot for, rather than just like this goal of more for the sake of more.
Oh, I love it. I think we just found the promo clip for this show too. Money is a team sport. Like, that's what we're going to see cruising along the web promoting this episode. That's genius. Can you talk to me about side hustling? Like, what is that? What does side hustling mean to you?
Sure. So side hustle, broadly speaking, is anything that you're doing to earn money outside of your day job. Generations ago, this might have been called moonlighting. What it carries a little bit of a different connotation than just taking on a second job, because I'm bartending on the weekends, I'm delivering pizza, I'm driving for Uber. Like, all of those count as side hustles in my book. Yet there's this more entrepreneurial connotation where, like, okay, there's this upside potential that my day job doesn't have, or there's this ability to perhaps expand beyond hours for dollars in some way down the road. I don't know if I'm encapsulating that, but it's more more than just a second job in most cases, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it absolutely does 100%. And one of the things I wanted listeners to get from this, especially the private label sellers who, like myself, that's a huge passion of theirs, is to not have blinders on to the different opportunities that are out there that can be complementary, or can just take the burden. Like, private label is one of the more complicated ways to sell on Amazon. And being able, the more you can invest into your business on that side, the better your brand will be. So hopefully listening to, going to sidehustlenation.com and listening to your show, they can learn some of these things to just help them as human beings and as entrepreneurs.
There are hundreds of ways to get it done, and it's fascinating because I had no idea. I mean, I was a kind of playing the role of curious journalist starting out. I was like, well, how many ways are there to make extra money? And I don't have no fear about running out at this stage, even 7 years deep into it. In fact, I was digging up this post for the purpose of this call, and it was like 22 ways to make money just on Amazon. And I was like, because over the last several years, so many side hustles have centered around this big Amazon ecosystem on the e-commerce side, on the AWS side, on the private label side, on the book publishing side. There's a ton going on over there. And it was the affiliate side that was kind of my first toe dip into side hustles in general, and Amazon specifically. The business that let me quit my job was a comparison shopping site for footwear, which I know dates me, as comparison shopping is not what it once was, but it would pull in the catalogs from Zappos and Amazon and all these other footwear retailers and show you where you could get the best price on your next pair of shoes. And when somebody did that, when somebody ordered it, the site would earn a small commission. So it was very much a volume game. But over the course of several years building that up, nights and weekends from the Ford job, that was the thing that let me quit and say, all right, I'm going all in here.
Awesome. And what's your take on Amazon at this point, since you know that there's so many opportunities, hundreds of legit side hustles that you can count on for stable, nice lifestyle, money to live on. What's your take on Amazon, and how should people treat Amazon when it comes to side hustling or in general?
Treat Amazon
nicely, but
with optimistic caution, if that makes sense. Like, read the Everything Store, which is definitely due for an update, because it's still, I think the most recent update was still probably 2014. So there's a lot of Amazon related drama since this is published, but it just gives you a sense of what kind of company that you're dealing with, for better or worse. I love Amazon as a marketplace of buyers, for the ability for me, and my first taste of this was my first foray into self-publishing, like in 2012. I wrote a book on like how to work with virtual assistants. Probably not the world's best book in the world, but you put it up for sale, and several months later, I got my first like royalty direct deposit for $46 and something.
Were you getting like the check? Then they mailed you the check?
It was still direct deposit at that time, okay. But it was not a lot of money, but it was still like this light bulb moment of like, number one, like, I'm a professional author. Someone bought my thing. Like, this is pretty cool. And secondly, I had a site, or I still have a site, on the topic of virtual assistants. And my theory was, it was a pretty crappy looking site. My theory was, I could write the book on the topic rather than investing in a site redesign. And that would be a way to build trust. Like, I'll look past the crappy design and see that this guy wrote the book on the topic. He must know what he's talking about. And through the magic of affiliate link tracking, you could see like, well, of those copies that sold, maybe one or two came through the site. But instead, what was happening, my theory was, people come to the site, see that he's got the book, go to Amazon, buy the book. What ended up happening instead was people would be searching for information on this topic on Amazon, buy the book, and then come to the site. Like, it worked completely opposite of how I thought. But that really opened my eyes to the power of Amazon as a search engine of buyers. And that's something that has been a really common theme on the Side Hustle Show for the past several years is, how can you put your products, services, ideas up for sale where people are going to find them? Go where the cash is already flowing.
Well said. Well said. You, in addition to Side Hustle Nation and knowing over 200 or hundreds of ways to side hustle successfully, you also are knowledgeable about and I think we have the same experiences in it, um, another part of Amazon called flash briefings. So can you explain to people listening what is a flash briefing?
Sure. So flash briefing, anybody with an Amazon Echo device may be familiar with this, as you can ask Alexa first thing in the morning, often, hey, Alexa, what's my flash briefing? And these are kind of miniature updates that you've selected through the app or through the Alexa interface to say, like, I want to hear from Nick, I want to hear from Carlos, I want my word of the day, I want a trivia question, I want, the NPR news update, whatever it is. And as a content creator, as a brand, you can create one of these things, and it's cost next to nothing to do aside from your time. But and one of the interesting tidbits here is, like, for the last couple of years, Mark Cuban has been really big on this. He's like, hey, what if I was to learn a new skill, what would that be? And his answer pretty consistently for the past couple of years is voice search, voice apps, Alexa skills. It's like he sees a big future in this, and I've dabbled in it a little bit myself and didn't see tremendous results. And whether or not that was me pulling the plug too early is kind of hard to say. But I know you've been playing around with this as well.
Yeah, I think you've been playing with it longer than I have. I started, I was going to start Wizards of Amazon flash briefing, and it was going to be like a daily release. And then Amazon wouldn't let the flash briefing go up because it had the word Amazon in it. So I wound up
Oh,
like
interesting.
quickly pivoting into online seller success tips, which is still there. Got an Amazon page, had a daily release for a while, but when I looked at the downloads on Libsyn, I don't know what you use, but on
Yeah.
Libsyn, if I look at one versus this podcast, it was light and day, and I was just like, well, I need to spread this content out a little more to justify the output that I'm doing. I think it's very early stages with Amazon. Even like it's very difficult to even search for a flash briefing currently.
Yeah, it's targeting definitely this tech forward audience who thinks it's super cool that a robot is giving them their news and talking to them in the morning. What I set up was the money making minute, and so it was like that was the constraint. It was like, because there's the idea is it's kind of a part of somebody's morning routine, which is really cool if they can get your voice into somebody's kitchen, into somebody's living room as they're getting ready in the morning, as their bedroom, as they're getting ready to start their day. Like, that's a really powerful relationship to build 1 minute at a time, over the course of several months. And I found that it was growing, but it wasn't, especially compared to the podcast, it wasn't taking off the way that I would have liked. And it was taking, I would batch record these, and so it wasn't taking a huge amount of time to produce. I was worried about running out of ideas. It's like, man, 365 ideas is like, I might be tapped out at the end of this, even though, and I was hoping that it would kind of become a self-fulfilling thing where listeners would submit their own, which just never ended up happening. It's like,
Yes.
I'm afraid the well is going to run dry here at a certain point. So it was tough to keep it going, but an interesting new medium for sure.
I'm curious what you think about regarding flash briefings, though. Like, if do you feel like it's better for certain industries or not, or maybe how to go about promoting it, long form versus minute of the day? What do you suggest there?
Yeah, I think short form is, especially for the flash briefing, is the way to go. There's a lot of different stuff, and Amazon is kind of in, like you said, early days in this Alexa skill ecosystem. It's similar to the App Store on on Apple devices, where it's like, or Android, where you could build a voice app and sell it and charge people for it. Like, there was a story of a guy, I want to say he was a Ford engineer too, or somebody, where he made an ambient noise app, and maybe he had a free version and he had a premium version for 99 cents or $1.99, and Amazon gives you 70% royalties on all these voice apps that you sell, or sound apps that you sell. And so it's like kind of this next frontier of app development, and there are some, you can look around and see what kind of the best sellers are. But
Whoa, hold on. We have to unpack because I have not heard this. So hold on a second. Back up. I think you might have shared that side hustle tip here. Like, there's people that are they're charging for their flash briefings.
I don't know if you could charge for a flash briefing, but I know you can set up a paid skill.
Okay, and then let's go with the ambient noise one, because I'm thinking connecting with someone on, an audio engineer or a sound engineer on Upwork. Like, this is very scalable, and I'm thinking a workflow and a VA involved to connect this.
Yeah.
So someone could pay for a custom skill, and roughly Amazon is going to pay royalties of up to 70%.
Right. And so it's similarly priced to a lot of apps you find on your phone, where it's like, yeah, it's a 99-cent app, it's a $2.99 app. And so again, very much a volume game. But if you can maybe you target, like Amazon has a search engine, and whether that's voice search or type in search, maybe there's something to play around with there. I'm trying to connect the dots to a potential private label brand, but I don't know. There might be something there for the audio engineering folks.
So something I've done, the only connection I've been able to find with private label is, and this is one of those things, I'm sure you have the experience, when you're contacting Amazon support, you can create 15 support tickets and get 15 different answers. So I don't want anyone to, I think everyone should do their due diligence and weigh, what's acceptable risk to them. But I've gotten consistent answers from everyone on support about the terms of service surrounding, if somebody buys from me on Amazon and I want to do an automatic email follow-up, can I include a link to my flash briefing, since the flash briefing exists on Amazon with a product detail page? And so far it's been a resounding yes.
Okay.
Which is nice, because now you're connecting them from a sale, which everybody wants to get that customer, and Amazon doesn't give it to you. But once they're in your flash briefing, you can have all kind of calls to action. I mean, if you're totally salesy, we know which direction that's going to go, but it done right, you almost have a bridge to get a better connection with Amazon's customer.
That is an interesting workaround, where it's like, hey, we're not going to give you their email address, but here's a gentler way to get them into your own ecosystem, potentially with the calls to action over there. And I was looking at my notes. So this ambient noise thing was actually a monthly subscription between 99 cents and $1.99, where reportedly this guy had 10,000 customers, 10,000 paying customers at that price point. So it ended up being a pretty nice recurring revenue side hustle.
God, that's amazing. That is really good. What was the name of it by chance, so I can look it up, or anyone else that wants to look it up can, or do you have it in front of you?
I have a CNN article.
Or you could just send me the link and I'll link to it in the show notes. I'll link to it in the show notes so people can look at it afterwards. Nick, what?
Okay, invoked apps, sleep sounds for Amazon Alexa and Google Assistant.
I'm gonna check that out. I'm a huge fan of Brain FM.
Oh, she's talking to me. Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry,
no, it's
Alexa,
good. Yeah, it's good. I had to change the name of my Alexa device in, like, the trigger word in my office to what's unplugged? Echo. You can change it to Echo. Because if you know you're going to talk about Alexa a lot, you can change the trigger word to Echo, and then Alexa won't trigger it. But Nick,
we were out like blueberry picking, and the family in the next row over kept shouting at their daughter, Alexa, and we kept waiting for like the little ding ding. Like,
oh, that's almost cruel nowadays. If you have a kid, you name your kid Alexa.
It's bad news. Bad news. Even like my 4-year-old is like, Alexa, stop. But like, we don't even have Alexa. Like, where did you get this? Like, he's over at his friend's house and the kids tell him the timer to stop. It's like, oh, kids today, talking to robots.
Oh God. I thought about a really cool custom skill that can be done, but I just think it only makes sense if you're getting it in front of some bigger players that like want to build it into Alexa, but almost like an etiquette filter. Because I noticed, especially younger generation, will be like, shut up, Alexa. And like just some things that they would never say to another human being. And I'm wondering if the Mark Cubans of the world are correct. And I think he is, that voice technology starts playing a much bigger role in just search and life.
Yeah.
That is it raising a ruder generation? So imagine if there was this filter you can put that a parent could put on that, Alexa would respond, but if you asked something and didn't say please or thank you or something like that, that Alexa would just say no.
I like that. That's a pretty creative one.
Yeah. So what's next for you regarding Alexa Flash Briefings? Are you going to revisit it? Or are you going to check out a custom skill? Have you moved on from that?
At this point, I've moved on from it. I think it's a very interesting new content frontier to play around with. It was actually a friend from a conference who kind of planted the idea in my head, and it was one of these where, like, several months later, I still couldn't shake it. So I was like, I want to at least give this. I want to at least take a swing at this, because if it is, this, getting in at the ground floor, this exponential thing, then I want to be on it. But it didn't end up being that hockey stick for me.
That FOMO.
Yes, oh, I fell victim to it.
What okay, so what let's get into side hustling again. What doesn't have to be the most profitable, but what are your, say, top 3 side hustles that you enjoy the most?
Oh man, that I personally enjoy the most. Let's see. I'll give you some that I'm kind of excited about right now, or at least interested in right now. Number one is YouTube. I am seeing a explosion in interest in YouTube. I know it's super late to the game in the YouTube world, but I had a video. It was a placeholder image, and then roll the tape from the podcast from like 3 years ago, that just had this viral wave over the last several months. And it went, I forget I say viral, but it went to like 70,000 views on this one video. And that spiked the channel subscribership, that spiked the, rolling 28-day estimated revenue from Amazon ads, or YouTube ads rather. And so it kind of, again, it painted this picture of like, there are algorithms in play here where if you could somehow tap into that, and some of it is 80-20, where, a certain percentage of stuff is going to hit versus everything else that kind of floats by the wayside. But we've seen people taking advantage of YouTube in the freelancing space, around, especially if you're kind of around specific products or software. Like, we had a guest on the show who's like kind of an early adopter of the Asana like project management system. And he was like, he would create these videos like, hey, I'm Paul, I'm an Asana consultant, and here's how you can do blah, blah, blah in Asana. And that blah, blah, blah in Asana was like the keyword that he was targeting. So people would search for how to do solve whatever problem in Asana. They'd find his video. He would plant the seed that like, hey, I'm a consultant. And he booked up like thousands of, hey, we ought to hire this guy to come train our team on how to do it. It's like crazy stuff just from posting YouTube videos. Another guy was a ghostwriter, and like, I will ghostwrite your book. And so he put up videos like book proposal template, or book proposal sample, or how much do ghostwriters charge, like a really kind of long tail type of keywords. But he was the guy putting out the content, and he's like, hey, insane thing, introduce him, hey, I'm a professional ghostwriter. If you want to look over my shoulder as I write a passage, I'll show you how it works. And, at the end, here's the link to contact me if you want to book a consultation to see if this is right for you. So really high on Amazon, or I keep saying Amazon, really high on YouTube from a content discovery standpoint. It just seems to be where the world is going, video first. So excited about that. The other model that I'm excited about is the newsletter-based business model, where especially, and I will say like the curation-based newsletter, I think is really fascinating right now. If you are interested in a topic of photography or pet care or online marketing or e-commerce, like, here are the best 3 articles I found on the internet about e-commerce today. Subscribe to my list, and I'll send these to you every day. And over time, because I get several of these myself, and I tend to click on them too. Like, one of my favorites back in the day was called Rockstar Finance. It's like, here are the best 3 personal finance articles that we found today. It's like, this stuff is awesome. And somebody else curated it for me, so I didn't have to subscribe to 800 blogs. I think that's really valuable. Over time, you can sell sponsorships, you can sell affiliate links. Once you have that audience paying attention to you, you can do a lot.
I have chills. I have chills right now.
I really like that model. And then just one that I've been playing around with myself is kind of like the print on demand merch side. I mean, the technology and the cost of goods and the integrations that you can do is really exciting there. We're not selling a ton of merch by Amazon today, but the stuff that is selling was designs that we created a couple years ago. And so it's like, this is that taste of that passive income. And you can see how that can be addicting to play around with, and see, okay, well, should I syndicate it to Redbubble, and should I do a Etsy store and all this different stuff? I think, or should we slap that design on, the 800 different products that are available? It's kind of like, do the work once and have the potential to sell it over and over again, which is appealing.
And these designs, you created them initially for like a totally different purpose?
Yeah, we just create this, a funny saying that you come up with, like, trying to think of it. Well, one was surrounding like the eclipse, which was like 2017, 2018. Like there's a big summer eclipse. So we created some eclipse
Hmm.
shirts. That was probably our best month ever. My wife and I do this. We'll do ones like for yoga, or I think she might even have one that just says like, be nice or something. Like simple, often just text-based designs. And, you throw them up there. It takes a few minutes to kind of create the design, especially once you kind of have the template and maybe the different fonts that you like to use. Throw the design up there, write a little description, and then it becomes search. Again, it's another buy button for people to do business with you. And sometimes people go and find it. There's a whole industry
I do.
surrounding
I do a
merch.
lot with merch by Amazon.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I get it. For the most part, my designs, it's more of a volume thing for me. I got in so early. I have so
Yeah.
many thousands of designs that are up. That's even if a very small percentage of them only sell like twice a week,
Yeah.
it's very nice. And it's about as passive as it gets.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's very much a
I,
volume game.
I sell about 35 a day though,
Dang, dude, that's awesome.
of this one series, like grouping of shirts that's
Okay.
for the niche of slime. Like apparently there's this thing with kids and like creating slime. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Oh, dude, the slime has bought us hours during this quarantine, hours of entertainment.
So I like slime queen, slimers do it better, and like all these things. And just that grouping of shirts is about 35 sales a day. And that shows you I know nothing of slime. You probably are more knowledgeable about slime than I am at this stage. And and that's decent. I think I get like $5.60 in
Yeah, per
royalties
sale.
per shirt. Yeah, and you
Yeah,
add
times
that up,
35 sales a day. Yeah.
right? So
Yeah, that's
so
fantastic. It's
yeah.
this Upwork, this speculative legwork upfront in doing the product research, creating the designs. Like there's a learning curve to that stuff. But then, like you said, once it's up there, passive royalties, living the dream.
Yeah. Do you have a tool you use, like a favorite tool in that space to like research what's selling, or you just go with, I'm feeling like downward facing dog today. Let's just do that.
Yeah, most of the ones that we've come up with have been not as a result of, so the traditional path here is like, go to clothing, sort by top sellers. Like, oh, people are clearly looking for Trump shirts or Biden shirts or whatever it happens to be the meme of the day, right? And trying to reverse engineer, like, okay, I could make that better by doing this other thing. And it's like, it's very copycat happy, and that kind of turns me off in a way. But a recent guest kind of pointed out, it's like, it's pretty similar to Google SEO. You see what's at the top of the rankings, you try and create something better. Is it really any different? I was like, okay, maybe not. But that's kind of how it traditionally goes. Our designs have been like, oh, that would be a clever saying, or I saw this on a bumper sticker, maybe I could turn that into a t-shirt, or I saw this meme that somebody shared on social media, maybe I could turn that into a t-shirt with a little twist. So stuff like that.
I love it.
Slime queen. I love it.
Yeah, go for it. Do it. And that's the beauty of it. Like I'm more of the, if I, how can I say this? So like if you have if you were walking near in my neighborhood and you saw me, selling lemonade, right?
Yeah.
And like a couple of weeks later, I was walking around, I saw you selling lemonade. I'm not the type of person that gets like, you stole my idea.
Yeah.
I'm more like, Nick, let's get together and bulk buy these lemons. Like we're going to make more money. So with stuff like that, with slime, I tell people, I encourage someone like, go look it up. I'm probably one of the better selling shirts in that space, and
Yeah.
model it, make it better. Like there's plenty of room for everybody. So, but
That's
yeah,
awesome.
it's great. I want to,
Have
let's
you
touch
now,
really,
since they're doing the volume that they are on Amazon, like, did you upload those to a Redbubble, to a TeePublic,
yeah,
to an Etsy stop or anything like that?
yeah, absolutely. And combined all of them, which is normally not the case. Like normally I'll have something that sells 2 a month on merch. And then when you combine, Etsy, Redbubble, and all these other ones, they sell more than that on
Yeah.
those combined. But on this one combined, all of the other ones about double my sales. So yeah, that one does really well for me. passively when you start doing the math. And again, that's just one grouping of them. So for me, it's been volume. I found a lot of people really fail at merch if they are artists.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. My a close family friend falls under that category. So look at some of the stuff that we've sold. It's just like just turns her nose up at the design aesthetic and stuff,
Right.
and because it's a volume game. It's about cranking this stuff out. It's about being creative, coming up with ideas, and what's as I always like to read people's shirts when I'm out and about anyways, like, oh, that's funny, that's interesting, like, oh, somebody would buy a shirt and wear that around, like, okay. And then you naturally look on Amazon like, oh, it's not there, so maybe I could create a different version. Lots of different opportunities there, but appreciate you sharing that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Let's touch really quick, and then I want to be respectful of your time. Let's touch on that second side hustle you mentioned. It feels like the majority of ecom thinks email's dead, and then there's the other part that's making a killing with email. So like, I love email. It's the backbone of my business. I'm an active campaign fan, but I feel like use what you know, and
Yeah.
take advantage of automations and scoring and all that stuff. It's good, but I'm super excited with this paid membership like email. I was pulling one up while you were talking that I'm in like 3 of them, but the one I'm looking at is Morning Brew with his
Okay.
like,
You pay for a subscription there? Oh, I thought it was free.
I think I have a paid thing of morning, or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm in Morning Brew and I'm thinking this is one of my paid ones, and it's I just wanted to find something fast
Okay.
to be able to pull up, but maybe it's not. I like Morning Brew though, and what they do, and what you're referring to is similar to Morning Brew,
Yes. Morning Brew is a
but
fantastic
paid.
example. Yeah. The Hustle comes to mind as one kind
The
of
Hustle.
in the startup world. Again, free to subscribe to, really well written content. They've kind of gone. I mean, they have a team of journalists now, so it's not just playing this curation game, but yeah, and they're doing the free model plus advertising. And I was listening to an interview with the founder of Morning Brew. He's like, the list has gotten so big, we have to divide it up because no one can afford to advertise to our entire list at this point. And it's like,
What?
this is crazy. Like it started at University of Michigan, I want to say, and just like word of mouth, listserv, up to the first couple hundred people, 1,000 people. And then because it was, well written, he called it, it's the Wall Street Journal for the next generation. Like, how do we, it just kind of spread word of mouth. And then Early Parrot, I want to say, is a service that will help incentivize you to share your like forward this to a friend, and like you could get rewarded for that kind of stuff. So you kind of encourage this word of mouth growth. Really fascinating stuff.
Man, I wonder, and you named this as one of the top 3. Just living up to the hype here and how brilliant I've found your content to be outside of the show. What?
Like
How would you
if
go?
I was starting a new business today, like
Yes.
this newsletter thing would probably be it.
How would you attack it? Like, how would you go about it?
So I would start with, I mean, you could do like really ground level stuff, like texting your friends, like, hey, I'm starting this newsletter that shares the best 3, Amazon FBA tips that I found today.
Podcasts.
Yeah, whatever it is, maybe it's a YouTube video, maybe it's a blog, maybe it's a podcast. Like 1, 2, 3. Just like find a format that works with you, stick with it, and it could be whatever. But you could have a virtual assistant or whoever, like you're in charge of reading these 200 blog feeds from the people who talk about this stuff, and just send me your best 3 or highlight whichever, because I got to do this every day, so maybe send me 10 that you like, and we'll kind of schedule those out over the course of the week, over the course of the month. I'm on Active Campaign as well. Like I think it's the best bang for your
Yes.
marketing automation buck. Really powerful suite of tools in there.
I love it. But how niche do you get? Like, like we're talking, I know we're just talking about, like, say, and it was an example, like we talk about, best FBA tips. And for Amazon sellers that this is all they do and they have the blindfolds on and they've never done anything else, the whole world revolves around FBA. When in reality, it's such a small, I mean, it's a huge thing, but it's in the grand scheme of things with business, it's a very, very thin slice of all the other things you can do. So is that too niche to create a newsletter on, or like what's too big, what's too little?
I mean, whatever the latest data is, you probably know it better than me. Like half of Amazon's inventory is coming from, individual third-party sellers. That's like, it's a huge market to tackle. To go the next level up, you could say just e-commerce, like, e-commerce elite, or, I don't know, I'm like an alliteration
Sure.
fan or something. And like, when I see this in my inbox, I know it's going to be packed with value. I know it's going to be relevant to me. And maybe it's, how to, how to reduce, people bouncing out of your shopping, how to reduce abandonment, or like this cart abandonment offer, blew up sales by 300%, like, these type of case study type of articles, interview. I don't know. I think it would be
And
really interesting, and I think replicable across, any number of different niches.
agreed. I just wonder, how do you get from, all right, I gave you my email address. It's kind of implied that you're going to send me high valued content on your fancy newsletter.
Yeah.
Why am I paying for this?
So my idea here would be free newsletter monetized with ads or affiliates, because that's kind of been my background.
Okay. I love it. Nick, what, to be respectful of your time, what, a bit of advice that you'd give anyone that's just starting off on the side hustle journey, or e-com in general, and how can people get a hold of you and consume your amazing content?
You bet. So, a piece of advice. I mean, the biggest thing for me, and the biggest thing that I've seen kind of separate the folks who are sharing their stories on the Side Hustle Show and elsewhere, and those who are sitting on the sidelines, is this willingness to experiment, to try something out, not knowing where it's going to lead, not knowing, maybe steps 2 through 100 on this journey, but knowing that first step, like, okay, I can figure it out as I go. Maybe I get the results that I was expecting, maybe I don't, but like, I don't chalk that up as a failure. I chalk that up as a learning lesson, and I go on to the next experiment. It was it was a private label seller in Japan who, I was like, it was $3,000 for this initial inventory order. Weren't you nervous about that? He's like, of course I was nervous about that. But you know what? At a certain point, you got to do something, or tomorrow is going to look a lot like today. And I was like, I really like that. If you don't do something tomorrow, it's going to look a lot like today. Where you can find me, of course, would love to have you tune into the Side Hustle Show. SideHustleNation.com is the home base. I will link, I'll send over that laundry list of different ways to make money on Amazon, to see if any of those strike a resonance with you.
Yeah, and I'll definitely include them in the show notes. Before letting you go, the thing I like to ask everyone that is a guest on the show is, what is your favorite book and why?
So the first one that comes to mind, I imagine is a popular choice, but it's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And we talked about kind of Mr. Money Mustache. And for us, that was like early retirement, maybe 2.0. Rich Dad, Poor Dad was early retirement 1.0. This idea that once your cash flow from assets you control, from investments, exceeds your monthly expenses, you're free. You're out of the rat race. That was early retirement 1.0 for me. And that was kind of the, job quitting moment for me. It's like, well, I got this business that I control. It's paying my expenses. Let's roll the dice, see where I can take this.
So it would be Mr. Money Mustache and Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
All right. Rich Dad, Poor Dad is a book. Mr. Money Mustache is just this, personal finance blog.
Okay. Yeah, I love it. Thank you very, very much for your time. You're definitely one of the people that when I started this podcast, I was like, man, I want to get this person on my podcast. So I love your show. I love Side Hustle Nation, and thank you very, very much.
Well, thanks for the invite, and I love geeking out on this stuff. Anytime.
Liked what you heard and want to stay connected? Join our Facebook group or find me anywhere on social media at Wizards of Amazon, or text the word Amazon to 69922.